Hello, this is Brad Wild, and we're in Denver, Colorado, KDEN, Delta Echo November, and we're going to fly up to Telluride, the highest runway, commercial runway in the U.S., and one of the tallest in the world. And that's at Kilo Tango Echo X-ray. It's just about a half-hour flight, and we're in the Saab 340A. Biggest problem here is getting this airplane up to cruise quickly. We need to be minimum of 16,600 feet, but we should be able to do that by the time we reach the Rockies. So it's early morning, and let's just get things started. But before we get the engines turning, let's take a look at our route. Here we are in Sky Vector, and here's Denver. And we're going to be using the SID for Baylor 3. So that has us flying south and then picking up these waypoints that drop us down to Blue Mesa, which is just before we get to we'll pass right over Telluride basically. So you can see that route charted here. And then our approach will be a localizer approach to runway 09. You can only land 09. So hopefully you always have winds out of the east. So we'll fly over cones, and that will be our initial approach fix, and finally pick up our intercept fix here at Hodlow. So let's that's our route, and I've charted it out here in Sky Vector, and see it's showing, let me put in a speed here, probably about 240, and it's going to be a 57-minute flight. It's a little over 200 miles. So I'll go ahead and click the Navlog button and copy these waypoints into my clipboard, then head over to X-Plane Tools, and I want to convert online flight plans, and this is going to be from KDEN to KTEX. Paste those waypoints in. Source of data is Sky Vector. Go ahead and convert that. Right click, save as, and drop that into flight plans, just your default flight plan folder in X-Plane. So now that should be set for when we program our Garmin. Turn up my brightness here. Should see the sun coming up by the time we get things rolling. So let me pull up my checklist, and we'll get things rolling in the cockpit. Alright, in the cockpit, got my flashlight on. Shouldn't need that for long. I'll turn on my ground power unit. Let's get our batteries on. This light shows that external power is available. I'll flip that on there. You can see things begin to light. Still don't have a panel light. Just turn on the dome for now. one of my seatbelt signs and get the beacon going. These we just reset. I'm not sure why we do that every single time. And the boot indicator goes on. This green light needs to be lit, and you can see things are starting to come on here, a good sign. So we can go ahead and get things started. So left condition lever to start. And our start button here, hold that for a second. And then we're watching our temperature here. Waiting for that to spool up. There we go. And now we've got some light here. So let's get the left generator on. Reset and on. Reset bleed valve. Now we can go ahead and start our second engine. Condition lever to start. Ignition switch. Watching our temperature come up here. Not sure if I have a view for that. That's out the other window. Now there is no APU in this airplane like you find in jet aircraft, so we rely on that ground power. I'm sure you could do a battery start. Notice all the lights are off because that engine is being started and all the power is focused there, but you'll see them come back on in just a second. There you go. So we can go ahead and turn on the right generator and we'll reset. And we can turn on our auto Corson. Let me just make sure we've got our standby pitot on. Turn on our main here. And let's go ahead and turn on our radios, auto Corson, which we'll need for our takeoff. That is on. Let's go ahead and turn on our nav lights. And we can kill our GPU at this point. Now that engines are running. And you can see our instruments are our HSI coming up. get some light on here. All right, much better. Let's arm our emergency lights. That's one thing that I forgot. Let's see, armed. And we can turn on our Garmin. So we're going to need to load our flight plan in there. Don't need the flashlight. And we'll hit enter. And I'm trying to remember if I had something set for my Garmin, so a view, and I don't, so I'll just go ahead and pull it up here, and we'll go over, and this is a previous flight plan, so I can go ahead and need to get over to my list of available flight plans, and we are going from Denver to Telluride, and that is right here. So I'll go ahead and enter, and you'll see all those waypoints in here. We don't need Denver, so we can clear that one. Then I'll need to hit direct and activate, so you can see that the distances and our bearings are all entered, and then we will dial in an approach once we get a little bit closer. Seems kind of dark up here. There you go. Alright, well, we're about ready to taxi. So let me just show you where we are on the airport before we begin our taxi. We're down here on the southwest part of the ramp, and we're going to take off on this runway that is runway 17 center, and or maybe it's 16. Anyway, we're going to head in that direction and take off to the south. I know, not very official. So we just need to get our condition levers up to they need to be set on max, and we can go ahead and drop a notch of flaps, and we're ready to taxi. So I won't bore you with all that. Probably turn off the dome light, not before I turn on my taxi lights. There we go. And join me again in a minute. So here we are at the end of runway 17 right. Terminal in the background. We'll be taking off to the south. Sun is just starting to come up. A few things to do before we take off. Still a little dark in here, isn't it? Landing lights, we don't need our taxi lights. We can turn on our strobe. And we need to set our CT OT, and I'm going to set it to 90, and this is kind of like a governor. So all of that is set, and I want to dial in my altitude, and I'm just going to go right to 18,000. beat. Ground operations, takeoff, inhibit, and that turns off some notifications that I don't want. And I want to be on GPS, so I press this button, and you can see here our route charted on the map. But we do want to set our heading indicator. Notice that's on here. I go ahead and set my climb ready to go. Maximum climb. Set our heading indicator. South, runway heading. So we'll fly using our autopilot, but the heading until we're ready to engage our navigation. We can turn on our transponder. Vertical speed set. And let's roll out onto the runway. A little bit of power here. Now what happens in this airplane is you advance your throttles to 64%, and then the CTOT takes over and advances them to our set position here of 90. Don't need the flashlight, do I? And just go ahead and increase that to 64%. And you can see that it is armed. There we go. Get back in the center here. And we rotate about 110. Rotate. Up. And auto course and all. Flaps up. can turn off our CTOT. And now we're ready for our autopilot. Turn on our flight director. Let's see. Oh, it's on. All right. Autopilot, 2 switches down here. And go ahead and click nav. That should bring us around to Baylor. Climbing at 141. There's a prop sink over here. Let's see if I have a key set for that. Thought I did. Airport off the right wing. Need to set a view for that switch. Traffic on the expressway down there. A lot of runways there at Denver. No mountains yet. Let me turn this down a little bit. There we go. Visibility is about 12 miles this morning. Expressway into Denver. Just double checking everything. There, that was the right key for that. And I'm just watching altitude here. I could increase this a bit. The CTOT really cuts back on that, so let me run that up. And I'm just watching my temperatures here. Don't want to exceed that 900 mark. There we go. Yeah, now we're up to 2,000 feet climb. That's what we needed. Check our map. We're about ready to intercept our route here. Our range. There's Baylor, our first waypoint. 37 miles. And now we've got mountains. City of Denver. Rockies off here in the distance. Yeah, I should have checked the torque sooner. I usually do. And I've read multiple accounts of what we should be doing with these CTOT and the adjustment of power afterwards. So why don't you join me when I come back as we reach top of climb. So coming up on top of climb, we're out over the Rockies now. We can set things up for cruise, so come back on our condition levers. And we're cruising along at 220, but picking up speed. We're still about 17 miles from Baylor. Take a look at our map. And still about 193 miles. And again, when we get to HBU, we'll probably dial in our approach. We can just make sure we have an approach. And I'm not seeing that localizer approach here. So it looks like we'll be doing an RNAV. But more on that later. Out over the nose. What the passenger is seeing in the back. Empty flight, as most of these are. Out the co-pilot's or first officer's window. I turned off my landing lights. Probably can turn off the seat belt. So flight level 180. And we can probably set this to our baro to standard. Wasn't a button for that. I forgot. Still some snow. See where we are on a map. Let me pull up X-Airports. See what we have here. So Denver, and you can see Interstate 70 here, Breckenridge. Boulder, and here is our waypoint, Baylor, and down to Blue Mesa, And here's Telluride, and we can take a look at our shaded relief map, so you get a little bit better idea of the terrain. So you kind of fly into this valley, and the runway itself is on this little cliff. You don't want to miss. You come in too low and it's curtains. But not much out here. I mean, if you're a skier, you're going to see Copper Mountain, Keystone. Aspen is up a little bit further north. So we'll just cruise along here for a while, and you can join me again as we get a little bit closer. Just a quick update. We have passed Baba, and we're on to our VOR here. Just take a look out over the nose. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. We've got an airport here. This is Leadville, kind of tucked in a little valley here. Let's take a quick look around out the first officer's window. Passenger view off to the south. Still at flight level 180. So a quick check-in. This is Gunnison, Colorado. Gunnison, Colorado? Yeah. And here's their airport. Notice the terrain is a little bit less severe here. We get south. The larger Rockies behind us. We're off to the west. But things will get a little bit more interesting before we get to Telluride. Pull up our map here. So we've got just under 3.5 minutes to Blue Mesa VOR. And when we get there, we're going to want to take a look at our approach. Let me find a map here. So here's the approach we're going to use in RNAV, and they're going to want to hold. I'm going to see if I can get out of that hold, but they want us at 13,000 feet, so we're going to dial that into our VNAV calculator to determine the time when we need to begin our descent, top of descent as they say. So we're we're right here somewhere. Here's Gunnison, and then we've got another 63 miles. Now they are showing that we need to be at a minimum of 16,600, so we're not going to want to begin our descent right away. Not quite sure exactly how we're going to do that, but we might just be doing a little more pilotage than normal. So I go over here to our RNAV and I put in 13,000 feet. Let's see. Boy, that's high for an approach, is it? Alright, and let's go down to see what we have here. ETL is the VOR, the cone VOR. Echo Tango Lima. And let's say we were to have a descent of, well, I'm going to put in 2,000. We're going to need to come down quickly. So they're saying 14 minutes we can begin our descent. So we'll keep an eye on that. But we have a hold there. We can lose altitude at the hold, and maybe that's what it's for. Not sure. Take another look at X airports. Just past Gunnison. Oops, turn that off. See our flight path there. Here is Blue Mesa. And you can see our turn here and then into Telluride. Alright, here goes our turn. This is a well-modeled airplane. This is one of my favorites to fly. It's what they call a study aircraft, where all the switches actually do stuff, and you got to do it right, or things are going to go wrong. See the airport still lit up down here. Now Delta does not fly into this airport. The only airline I know of is called Great Lakes, and they fly Beechcraft 1900s. And I know there is one available for X-plane from Coronado, but I'm set with these short-range airplanes for right now. So join me again in a few minutes. So we begin our descent in just over a minute. Telluride is, whoops, wrong direction. Telluride is right out here, so it's a little bit more mountainous than we're seeing off of the nose. I did pull up a map from the U.S. Geological Survey and just checked these altitudes, and it might be a little hard for you to see them, but we're anywhere between 10,000, 9,000, and we just kind of come up this valley, so I think we're going to be fine to begin our descent sooner than later. So I'll dial in my altitude, 13,000. And go ahead and begin our descent. I'll click vertical speed and roll this forward. You can see it up there in the corner of the HSI. I want to go to 2,000. There we go. So you can see that number here, and we begin our descent, and I can come back on our power. Keep an eye on our cruise speed here. Right now our ground speed is 261. And so our next waypoint is the cone VOR. And let's see, that is here. So we're kind of coming down this direction. And we'll see if we can avoid a long hold and get into Telluride. So that's just 7 miles out, so we're coming down at a pretty good clip, so I don't see a problem with that. again, our passengers. Looking back from the captain's side. Sorry, I was looking for that button. So I should probably have a procedure in here, shouldn't I? Should have done that a while ago. We're just going to go with the RNAV here. And we'll go with ETL as our... And they're going to throw us into this hold. Let's take a look at our map here. Get out of this. So here's our hold. So zoom in a little bit. So they're going to bring us around, and I think I'll try to just cancel this. Trying to get this set here. Sorry. I think if I kill this eventually, we can get to where we're going, or make this a direct to Sepma. Let me go down here and make this direct to activate. Get us turned around here. So we're going to be approaching from the wrong direction, or a different direction, probably not wrong. So we're out here right now, and we need to come this direction. Here's Sepma, and let's see, they want us at 13,000, so it'll probably just be a visual approach on into our runway, runway 9. So we're 13 miles out. And headed towards, hopefully, Sepma. Right here. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. Call that pilot error, I'm sure. So Telluride is off in here, I believe. Let's take a look out the window. Well, I'm not real sure exactly where it is, which is why we have navigation. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my lights so I don't forget. And we can probably have everybody sit down. And we've intercepted our route to Sepma. So all this is encouraging. And once we get to Sepma, we'll begin setting up for our final approach. Our passengers. First officer, Captain. And again, Telluride must be, I'm not sure if it's in here or back in here, but we'll see. Aren't you glad I'm not really flying? Clear blue skies. Although I have real weather turned off just because of the frame rates that this thing requires, the Saab. Maybe tuck this down in the corner so I can keep an eye on it. So we're just 2 minutes from Septima. And our runway elevation, just to double check, is 9,000. So that runway gives us about 10 miles to reach that altitude, which should be plenty. I think this is Telluride right here. You can see the cliff here. And fortunately I can see the PAPI lights already, which will help us get our guide slope correct. Alright, let's come back. Well, let's not come back too soon on our power. I'm going to go ahead and kill our autopilot. Drop a notch of flaps. Don't need our map anymore. Trim down a little bit. And condition to max. Put our CTOTs on. Gear down. It is a little alarming to have this little patch, this little strip of runway perched on top of a cliff in the middle of the mountains. So again, we're looking for 9,000 feet. The PAPI lights are red, so we're probably a little low. Watch our airspeed. The switch I have for my little bouncy here. Get a little more power. Whoops. I wish that I had a button on my joystick that would actually control this all the way down to the bottom, or to the lowest torque. I guess they want you to come in high. So I have another 1,400 feet to go. Alright, I've got a couple of white lights there. So again, you want half and half. Half white, half red. So I guess they're looking for a pretty steep final approach. And maybe that's for good reason, because of that cliff. There we go. We got 2 red, 2 white. Approach about 112. Get lined up here. Usually don't hand fly this airplane. I'm usually on an ILS approach. Adding flaps here. Oops, now I'm high. A little squirrely. Not sure what that caution button is for, but see if I can get it square away here. Alright, well that was a mess. Got reverse on here. Alright, well that was a little dicey. Not much here in the way of terminal. No jetways here. And we'll just park it here. And let's cut off our engines. Beautiful Telluride. Crazy landing. Need to practice that. Anyway, thanks for joining me.